So, welcome to the Oil and Gas Pitch Podcast. Today is a great day. There's a lot of things that we're going to share with you today. But before I do, I want to say we're here at Churrasco's. I'm almost ready to call this thing our Pitch Podcast headquarters. You know, one of the things that they've done to adjust to the current situation with COVID and everything else is they've created a really neat 4 and 6 family pack. It's a way for you guys to grab salad, 2 entrees, it's all the sides that you could think of, and it's all through Churrasco's right now. We're doing something really special at OGGN, which is when you order your 4 or 6 pack, you will actually be able to get a free collectible OGGN tumbler. So definitely check them out. I'm going to put the Churrasco's website in the show notes, and I hope you check it out. So one of the things I'm going to ask before we get this interview started, so what does MLB Advanced Media, Sprint, some of the world's most renowned hospitals all have in common? Well, it's a company called Appian, and today I'm with Glenn Healy, who is the VP of Sales and Strategic Alliances with Appian. And first off, I just want to welcome you for being here. I want to thank you because I know it was kind of a drive and it's a little bit on the rainy side outside.
Well, it was a good purpose and reason to get out of the house, first of all, and I'm delighted to be here and love being in Houston, and the rain has subsided for a bit, so let's roll.
Well, you know, Glenn, I talk to a lot of technology companies right now because they're candidates for the show, right? They make a submission. Mark LaCour and I, we review them very carefully. But Appian really has a mystique about it to me, because when I look at your client list, and it goes from the Marines to the Army to the FDA, so there's like all this kind of federal, which when I think of technology and I think of security, I'm going, well, that's a check mark for you guys. But what is going on with Appian? What is it that you guys really do? And from there, I think we'll get this thing started and kind of get into your deck.
Great. Yeah, appreciate that. And Appian delivers a single platform that allows companies to build applications without writing code. So they have the ability to actually configure an application in a matter of weeks, not months or years. So irregardless of whether I'm in the federal operations or I'm in a commercial company, private company, irregardless, there's people, process, and data that is throughout the organization, and it's keeping the efficiency around these processes, which helps them operate in a better manner.
You know, a lot of times, this is kind of like an inside joke that we have just a lot of times when we're talking technology, but a lot of companies just use words like efficiency, big data, AI, right? Appian doesn't really do that. I've noticed, like, when I was kind of preparing for today, and I know we're about to get started, but the more that I would look into what you guys are all about, you're kind of in this very interesting category of your own.
And to a lot of people, it's still Appian who. You know, we're a 20-year-old company, and we're a public company as of a few years back. But we do have some great clientele. Some of the largest companies in the world, some of the largest financial companies, insurance companies, pharmaceutical companies. You mentioned the federal department. We got some of the largest federal agencies, Homeland Security, Department of Defense. So yes, it is a highly secure solution, no doubt.
Okay, so we'll get started. I'm ready to kick it off, but usually the way I start this is I talk about, like, I ask the guests, I say, who needs to be listening, kind of who needs to be at the edge of their seat knowing what we're about to get into. But in your case, and the way that I understand kind of these drag and drop features and just some of the stuff that you're going to get into, am I right that really the people that are using Appian, it's kind of a collaborative, because whether you're out on a truck on a job site, or whether you're C-level suite at home base, the fact is that everyone can contribute to what makes what Appian does work.
Yes, and to elaborate on that, as you mentioned, you know, the C-suite and the CIO and the IT organizations usually are the ones that are empowered to build these applications. More and more today, the business is becoming very enabled because of a platform like Appian, where they can actually configure their applications, integrate to their existing systems, leverage that data. The business is the ones that have the pain, the problems, the budget to fix it, so they should be the ones who be empowered. Yes, you can't exclude IT because you still need them for the integrations, for the governance and the security. But in Appian, as a delivery, we deliver it through the cloud. So we, in fact, are your IT shop. So we manage the applications, the servers, the upgrades, the bug fixes, and deliver it to you as a fully managed service.
All right. Well, I hope everybody's paying attention. We're going to dig into Appian. There is a lot going on in the oil and gas industry where what you're going to learn today, if it is what it is, and what I've kind of experienced so far in my preliminary research, this is something that could really help a lot of companies. So with that, Glenn, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. And with that, we'd like to communicate our guarantee. And we guarantee that we can take an idea to an automation faster than you ever could before. In fact, 20 times faster. And there was a research done by Forrester that communicated the ability to do this because we're not writing code. We're drawing business applications. And another guarantee we make is anyone technical, even a business analyst per se, can be trained in 2 weeks. And they can be off building their own applications. So that's where we wanted to start with.
Well, I got to ask you, when you say guarantee, is it guaranteed that it gets done, or is it guaranteed also, is it tied to a budget? Like, what is the guarantee?
Guarantee, we work with the clients to understand the scope of that, and we work with them to understand how do we deliver a minimally viable product to the hands of the business. We want to do that very quickly. We want to do that in literally 8 weeks, and so we guarantee that we can get them there. It's not going to necessarily be the end of the application because you always have continuous process improvement. You always want to integrate to yet another system, source of data, another sub-process, and automate those. But to really get the product into the hands of the users, yes, we guarantee in 8 weeks we'll come to an agreed upon scope and we'll deliver on that. If for some reason the project's going longer and it's going to take supposedly 14 weeks, we'll bring in more resources to get that done in 8 weeks. That's our guarantee at no additional cost.
So it's tied to that agreed amount for that milestone. That's pretty neat, because that's kind of like my worst nightmare is you open up a can of like innovation and you meet some techies and like, there's some guy with some ramen noodles on his lap while he's talking to you. And suddenly you're going like, wait, this was supposed to be done 9 weeks ago. What's going on here? And then on top of that, there's an invoice that's attached to that. This sounds like a sidestep to all of those nightmares.
It is, and we have the ability to really control that project with a squad, and we come in really with a small team of 3 or 4 individuals. We don't need buses of individuals to back up and deliver these applications. Once again, the speed and the power with this solution is really what's so attractive to companies. So we can come in with a very small team, deliver this in 8 weeks, and it's a guarantee that your business is going to start being able to use this. And then that's really where you're going to get the feedback from the actual users. As you mentioned, those people in the field that are doing their inspections, that are doing the re-entry of the data, that's taking half of their day to do that type of manual work rather than the high dollar pay job that they're paid to do, whether they're engineers or scientists or others. If you can provide the right information to the right people at the right time in the context of what they're doing at their tasks, life is going to be that much better for them. So that's what's attractive to those that are really struggling, going home late at night saying, I just wish this was an easier way to do this. I really love my job, but this data entry or this calling and emails and Word documents and PowerPoint, automate it, digitize it, put it in the hands of the individual with their mobile device, in fact. Whether it's on the desktop, laptop, or any mobile device, the applications, you design it once and you can deploy it everywhere. And that's a huge win for organizations as they try to really introduce technology that we today use in our everyday life. Nobody trained us to go to Amazon and order a book. Well, we pride ourselves in building an application that's that easy to use that it takes no end user training. So if you can deliver an application to your end users that they can walk through intuitively to get their job done, you've made life that much easier, because that's one of the big challenges of rolling out new innovative technologies is change management. So making it easy is key.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing as you say that. I'm imagining how many people are sitting down with their spouse with a glass of wine, and simultaneously the spouse could be shopping on Amazon, or and you have the neatest, latest contraption arrive to your door. This is the kind of ease of use that your company is guiding in these companies to take 6, 7 different systems and bundle them, if you will.
Yes, and we call that capability a record. And so if you have data in 10 different siloed systems, from your ERP to your CRM to your databases to your homegrown custom applications, you really want to leverage Appian to, in real time, bring that data in. We don't have to copy the data, we're just calling it in real time. So that's another big issue that IT tends to get into, is trying to migrate data and move data from all these different systems. Leave it where it is. It's one of the powerful things about Appian is we can really handle data virtualization. So at the right time in that task, it's going to call out to those systems and bring it back into one single user interface. So now as a user, I have all the information I need to make my decision to complete my task. I don't have to pick up a phone, send an email, log into another system. actually do it right in front of you and move on and move the job through to the next task.
All right, so with today's world, this COVID thing, it's been, I know, I see it on your slide. I'm imagining there's a lot of companies that have had to, out of no other thing than the financial requirement, they have to make adjustments right now. So what role are you guys playing in that?
Well, the COVID-19 actually was an emphasis to Appian in how quickly we can create new applications and new solutions. And that's really what a lot of companies are faced with is I have to change the way we do work. My supply chain has to change. My order to cash, or I have to go to market with a new whole offering because there's an opportunity. Otherwise, we may be the next blockbuster. So being at the edge of your competition, you don't want the same application everybody else just brought in because that doesn't allow you to differentiate. What does allow you to differentiate is custom applications. And this is what Appian is. We develop custom applications without writing code, and that's the secret sauce.
Yeah, I read that. It's one of the taglines is a low-code development platform. So can you give us like some examples, like some stories of like, here it is. I just, for the heck of it, was on your website and I was looking at the list of customers. And that's where I personally was kind of impressed in the fact that there's a lot of diversity there. What is the common denominator that you guys are presenting that is turning these people into clients?
Well, even though you could be in entirely different industries, from banking to insurance to pharmaceutical, you're dealing with a lot of people, process, and data. And it could be from everything to creating a new drug or a new product. It could be your clinical trials. It could be an example of PPP. The banks all of a sudden got presented with, here's a new task for you. Appian was able to create an application within a week and release it to the market because we knew how powerful that was going to be.
The PPP, let me tell you, my day job is in the insurance world. I've talked to a lot of bankers as that kind of thing just opened up, right? On one hand, it was a big blessing for a lot of entrepreneurs. On the other hand, for like one of the banker friends that I have, they were telling me, they go, you imagine filling the biggest sports arena with as many people as you can and just taking all of those people overnight and putting them into this like neighborhood bank. That's what it was like.
Madness. And so Appian was able to create this application, allowed them to automate the onboarding of these individuals. Whether they're going to be approved or not, that's part of the process. The whole intake, capturing all the data, the information, connecting to the Small Business Association, making sure they're going through the regulatory requirements and that they're met. And then once they're presented with that loan, now following through the governance of what requirements they have moving forward. So to create an application rather than trying to do that manually allowed them to, instead of taking on 10 a day, they could take on 1,000 a day.
A lot of the feedback we get, not just in the oil and gas industry, but it goes it spans across many industries, is people who are in they're in their current job description. They're doing really what technology at the moment is allowing them to do. But it still requires them to kind of regurgitate information. In other words, you go to a job site, you have an employee there putting in information. Then you have home base, again, clarifying information. And you have people that are really, some of the frustration that we hear a lot about is just where not only do you have this information where it needs to go in a couple different times, but it's going into different systems. Is that part of what made like the PPP thing better? And I would imagine there's constant updates. Like you hear a lot of feedback about the needs change on the daily with that.
Yes, you're right. So the managing of the rules, and Appian has a rules engine, which makes it much easier to be able to change it. So when we talk about agility, that's a key phrase for Appian, because you need these applications to be agile, because your business is going to be different a month from now, a quarter from now, 3 years from now. If you have a coded application, it's going to be very challenging for IT to make those changes. And I know every business individual out there that has turned and asked their IT counterpart to create them something, the response is, maybe at the end of the year we can get to it and it may take us 6 months. We've eliminated that. We can come in and within a matter of weeks deliver that solution to the business and become their IT, managing that application, but then including their IT, because we still need the security, the governance, and then the integration, whether it's API or other means of integrating to other data systems. So it becomes very collaborative between business and IT to create the right solution the first time and make it an agile solution that can change on the hands of the business.
That's great. And so if this COVID slide, if you feel comfortable, I think that says a lot, the adjustments that are happening.
Yeah, and so that was the PPP we talked about of having a quick solution. Another example was 2 weeks prior to that, we created another solution that we took to market, and it's called the Work Safety. And it was really for the covert pandemic. So now, as everybody went on furloughs and they had people working from home, the whole challenge now is how do I get them back safely to work? So now managing every individual safely in a secure manner through HIPAA regulations. So it introduces a lot of complexities to someone to build an application to be able to manage the coming back to work, managing the track and the trace and those types of things. So those are another example of quickly building an application. So there's 3 core ways that Appian is really used amongst these organizations. One is to create brand new applications. A good example is
Yes, the big financial institution that we can't name.
they wanted to get into the fintech offerings to personal lending. Well, for 150 years, they've prided themselves in building their own applications. Well, this was a unique situation. They needed to get to market very quickly. So they turned to Appian. And from the idea to the application, within 6 months, they created a brand new application. And with that, they've lent over $5 billion in the first year and won awards.
But who's giving the ideas? I'm just curious. Like, where do these ideas come from? Is it a collaborative meeting? And who's like?
Well, it was the idea of the business, really, of hey, we have to change our business and we have to go to market to do personal lending. How do we do that? We need an application. So they had the idea. Now, how did they go? They could have went and built it and spent 2 years and millions of dollars, but they turned to Appian and for half that price and for a third of the time deployed it and really set the market on fire for this personal lending application. So that's a good example of a brand new application. Another use would be to overlay your existing systems and processes. So often when we go into organizations, there's systems in place today. They're operating still. They're inefficient. They're managed by paper and emails and phone calls and re-entering data. And as we know, human error is about 30%. So there's a lot of challenges with that. Appian comes in and overlays those existing systems, departments, groups, and we really orchestrate, as an example, order to cash. Order comes in from the client. Well, now what type of order? Let me give you an example of an oil and gas servicing company. For them to take an order, well, the order may come from Chevron or Exxon, and it's, I need to drill 20 wells out in the Bering Sea. Well, you've won that award. Well, now what do you have to do? I have to go plan that, which takes months. I have to design it, which is what all the engineering needs to do, into the mobilization, which means I have to get all the tools, all the personnel ready to go to this construction job that may be weeks or years long, to the actual execution of the job when I'm out there with these engineers now tapping to the drill, to the well, to the tools, to the post-job completion. Now, if you think about that, there are dozens of systems involved. Well, today, Appian has been an overlay, and we communicate to all those systems, and we're the single user interface. So at the right time, the individual gets their task through workflow, and it says, here's what your task is. You've got all the information to go about your task. And sometimes I'm an engineer, and I'm doing a reservoir sizing. I'm not going to use Appian for that. I'm going to go off and do it. The result's going to come back into Appian, which is then going to go measure against their risks in the plan and the design. And so that's an example of overlaying existing application.
Well, what I love about that is, one of the things about ideas is that you hit it. I mean, ideas come from all kinds of places. I always kind of joke around about how spicy Cheetos would have never been spicy Cheetos if it wasn't for the janitor at Frito-Lay, right? And in this case, I mean, you have employees, you have teammates, you have people that are really frustrated sometimes, or they feel like there's inefficiencies. And it almost sounds like if a company really, or if an executive is listening right now, or anyone, anywhere in a company, not just IT, if they identify a place, a dream, if you will, of what could be, if just technology would do what it possibly could, that is where kind of Appian steps in and executes.
Yes, and often it's us coming in, sitting down with the client, and then just explaining their as is and their to be. And that to be is that we wish we could do it this way. And we'll often even challenge them because they often don't know what really is possible, because now we have machine learning, we have artificial intelligence, we have robotic process automation. And a lot of groups are out there trying these individual types of technologies. But the biggest challenge when I talk to these corporate leaders is they're having trouble institutionalizing it. And what does that mean? It means I don't need little pieces of all these technologies. I need a cohesive platform that can help me orchestrate and leverage all these technologies. And that's exactly what Appian does. And we hadn't got into talking about those other buzzwords, which is AI and artificial intelligence and robotic process automation. But Appian delivers all that capability out of the box as well.
That's great. Well, let's keep going. This is great. And I don't know where you're putting it into this episode, but the drag and drop, like just in my conversations with people, that was kind of a fascinating. It's almost like the minute you hear drag and drop model, any of us can imagine where that would be really nice.
Yeah, and we often like to refer to our platform as a Lego set. Because what we're doing is we're now going to just grab this size piece and fit it with that size piece, so they're objects, so it's object oriented. So if you can think about a Visio, and you can draw a picture of your application and then just right click and configure whether that's a human interface in the form that you want them to fill out, or whether it's a system integration, or I'm going to call to the Google service to perform an AI on this document because it's unstructured data and I need to digitize it to bring it into the process to make a decision. That's exactly what Appian is able to do out of the box.
Well, I know a lot of people will love that, because the one thing that gets associated with ideas, and especially when it comes to technology and building something, is things take a lot of time and the budget is unknown. And I know we're going to talk about some of the guarantees you guys do. I personally think that there's a lot of people that even though they might know what steps they want to take, they might not know if it's better to kind of shoestring it together with different providers, or is this truly a one phone call away opportunity for them?
It is a one phone call away, because where that begins is us to come in and actually understand what are the challenges, what are the hurdles that they have to try to overcome, and how then can we apply technology to help them with that. And then going beyond that of not just talking about it, but actually showing it. So we ask, give us 5 hours, and in 5 days we'll come back and show you in the application everything you had just asked for and how we're going to accomplish that. So it's really referred to as a proof of concept. From that idea, they're going to now, as a client, understand, boy, I didn't even think about that. That's kind of, if I could get to Nirvana, here's what it really looks like. And so we want to really push that, what is Nirvana for you, because the technology can allow us to get there. And that's the exciting thing, because every challenge that we go into is different no matter the industry. And the applications are limitless. And a lot of our clients today, they have hundreds of applications now designed on the platform. And that's pretty powerful, because it's the same system, the same user interface, the same login, the same look and feel, the same data you're leveraging. So not 100 single applications, but 100 unified applications throughout the organization. Very powerful.
Incredible. And I see we're about to talk about why you guys are different. I feel like we've touched on it, but you've actually got a set couple images there.
We have, because there's a lot of organizations out there that throw a lot of these buzzwords, and it gets confusing. And so how we're different is, I'd like to sum it up, is full stack automation. And what that means is not only the ability to do the workflow, but the robotic process automation we have built in, the AI, artificial intelligence, where we can leveraging the services from Amazon and Google and some of the major AI providers, and the business rules. And then most importantly, case management, because really at the end of the day, this is every job, ask, task is really a case. It becomes very collaborative, and sometimes cases go from step A to B to C and then back to A until they get right. And that's what you refer to as dynamic case management. So bringing those all together into the single platform really it empowers you to become not only delivering these fast, but very powerful applications. When people hear low code, no code, they think, oh, that's maybe just for simple stuff, and that's a little SharePoint plugin. There are some that are like that, but Appian is just the opposite. We're the only enterprise low-code platform, and it encompasses all this capability within one stack of one technology. The data anywhere is very powerful, and I mentioned that a little earlier with data anywhere. We don't want to or require organizations to move and migrate data to bring it into the system. We're actually going to call that in real time. And we call this that capability of a record, to be able to reach out into a dozen different systems, bring all the necessary data at that step of that task. Depending if it's task 1 or task 3, that system call could bring back different information. So the ability to build in that intelligence into your integrations is very powerful as well. Now you're servicing up the right information to the right people at that right time to allow them to do their job in a very efficient manner. And then we talked about that low code, and that low code is really the core of what we're doing, is delivering this powerful process management application with writing any code. So fellows like you and I, we can actually draw the application. And I would invite anybody today to go to appian.com and ask and request a free trial. will allow you to access to the software, and it'll go through a whole tutorial and let you build your own applications to see just how easy it really is.
Well, and that's the thing and that's really a wonderful invitation. But I mean, this is something that whether it's upstream, downstream, midstream, the entire gamut is really a potential customer for you.
Absolutely. In the oil and gas space, especially where we have solutions today that are in the refinery and helping them with the shutdown and turnaround, which is a very laborious process where contractors are brought in and there's existing systems they use. They use Oracle Primavera and Maximo and SAP. The challenge is they're maybe not even integrated, so there's a lot of rekeying of data. But think about a shutdown at a refinery taking 30 days plus, and you have 1,000 contractors showing up for a 24-hour cycle around the clock. And now you're going to print out 1,000 different tasks and ask them to print it and go inspect it and then go actually rekey it. Appian is actually integrated in taking that plan, digitizing that whole experience. So now your contractors are provided with intrinsically safe devices, and they're able to do their work right there. They don't have to go back to the tent. They don't have to go back to the huddles at the end of the day. The next crew coming in can actually see where they are on plan to the plan that was delivered, to any exceptions that may have occurred. So they don't need an hour shift now to talk about what happened. They need 5 minutes because everything's in real time at their fingertips.
Now, I know there's a Houston-based oil and gas operator that's local here. Can you just share with us a little bit, without divulging too much, but just kind of a high level of what you guys did and like how that, like where did the rubber meet the road?
So think about a large oil and gas servicing company that delivers a lot of capabilities to Exxon and Chevron and others that require these services to go drill wells, and whether it's on land or out in the sea at 10,000 feet deep. There's a lot of planning and designing that goes around with delivering on that. So the challenge was the risk and the safety. Trying to get to zero incidents is really a corporate mission. And with that, you really have to be efficient at delivering your job, so you're delivering powerful results to your client, but profitable ones to yourselves. So anytime you can get more efficient at that, and if you think about some of these projects, they're years long. They're large construction projects. So if Exxon were to award to the servicing company 20 wells in the Bering Sea, there's a lot of planning and designing and the whole mobilization, getting the right people, the right tools loaded to the trucks, all the equipment, all the assets, and then you get to the job, and now you have to do the job. And that's a whole different set of individuals that really need capabilities in the remote places. So the ability to do work and maybe on your phone, but maybe do it offline. I don't have a connection, but I still have my forms and my tasks that I have to go through as I'm going through my checklist doing my job. So if I can capture that, timestamp it, when I get back to the hotel, I now have a connection. It's going to take all that data and report all my jobs that were done in real time. So it's pretty powerful when you're handling the solution in the back office, to the mid office, to executing in the field, to now the information that you have to share back with the client. That's all now orchestrated through one single solution, one single application. And so it's an excellent opportunity for them to revisit how they did things in the past to how they can improve things, and then look to go automate that with the workflow and the RPA and AI and all the risk management that they're doing in those types of jobs.
So on this slide, the full stack automation, what really is the takeaway here?
This is just an example of user interface, and this is actually a call center individual. And what's happening is now they have a screen that's showing them the workflow. So the workflow is showing, hey, you have a new call to take on. The AI is showing information about this customer because it captured their phone number and automatically went and pulled all the information about this client. I didn't have to go type that in. The system did that for me. The case management shows anything that's outstanding that we have with the client, any other disputes, any accounts that are opened. So like in banking, you have the KYC, know your customer. Well, you have to know about all the accounts. Once again, this is the ability to bring this in from several different systems. They may be in several different departments within the company, within large banks and insurance, as you know. They have different departments. Well, I still need to know about that customer policy in this other division. So servicing up all that information. The RPA is handling integrations. Perhaps we're just taking Excel files that were passed in and parsing those out and grabbing the data, moving it into the screen as well. So it's
The
artificial
AI,
yeah.
it's almost like the AI that you guys are able to create almost gives us our own CIA officer to like just fill in the blanks so that maybe from a production standpoint we are moving faster, or from a customer service standpoint we have information that the customer's not repeating and repeating and repeating.
Yeah, what's more frustrating than that than you give all your information to one person and they find out what it is you need and they say, oh, I got to pass you over to Jane, hold tight, and they're going to ask you the same. Exactly. You want that experience to be seamless for that customer, and as well for the customer representatives that are trying to help this client, to satisfy this client.
This is a great slide. That really brings it together. I like that.
Yeah, and as we talked about that data anywhere for flexibility, this is key for organizations because today data is not only behind their firewalls, but it's in their public cloud or they're in another cloud solution. So once again, just adding more complexity to the IT landscape, Appian simplifies that. Once again, tying into all these systems, bringing that information at the right time, we're making a call to that. And it's very similar to IoT. You hear a lot of what's IoT in oil and gas. Well, that's the ability to listen to all these different devices. Well, the devices themselves are great, but if I'm looking at 1,000 of them and there's 6 different ones for different warnings, I can actually connect all those devices to Appian to be able to monitor it from a dashboard and then kick off processes and tasks and actions if maybe a certain pump reached a certain heat temperature and it went back down, but because it went to that certain heat, it may have affected other parts. So I'm going to send somebody out there to do that. It's all automatic through the
So
application.
I always tell the audience, when people throw away these big acronyms, I'll tell you, IoT is Internet of Things, right? It's that bringing to life an informational capability to communicate from equipment and devices in the middle of nowhere or anywhere. Think of your thermostat, where you can control it from your iPad. That's really, I could see why that's obviously great in every, it's so obvious why this could be a deal changer for everybody.
Yeah, and one of the new capabilities with AI that we see a great adoption on is the unstructured data from documents. So think about a supplier that's getting invoices from 1,000 different vendors or receipts or whatever that document is. They're coming in all different forms because it's the vendor's form that's sending it. So now I have to put eyes on all of these to figure out the amount, the dollar. It's not needed anymore. We can actually leverage in the Google service to translate this document. It will introspect it and it will classify it. And then so it could be 10 different types of documents coming in, but this one has to go to accounts payable, this one has to go to accounts receivable, this one has to go to returns or warranty. We can pull all that and automate that. So your mailroom doesn't have 10 people. It now comes in and everything's electronic, and that's a great example of not needing OCR technologies. Companies are spending a lot of money on that. OCR is optical character recognition. And that's the ability when someone scanned something in and it pulled all the data from it. That's last year's technology. Leveraging AI now, I don't have to buy all this expensive equipment to be able to accomplish this.
But when it comes to low code, just with my very basic understanding, low code just seems like it's obvious that it should sound easy. Am I wrong about this?
No, because some low code solutions out there are very complex and they're really developer tools. Well, that's not where we're going with this. Appian is really meant to be very simplistic, so it empowers the business and a business user or business analysts to be able to build these applications and then invoke IT then to look at it and to govern and make sure the integrations are appropriate and the data and the way it's being used is secure. And then you've got your application.
So low code doesn't mean low tech.
No, it means very powerful applications, but the ability to create it requires low code, meaning I can draw in this application just by dragging and dropping components onto a Visio-like palette.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
And we talked about creating the new business applications. I referred to the second opportunity of extending systems and unifying those. The third, which I have as number 2 here that I didn't talk about, was modernizing applications. So some companies say, no, we've got a mainframe. Man, I wish I could get rid of that, but I can't. But what I do need is the data in and out of that. So Appian can actually modernize that mainframe. We can mobile enable that mainframe. We can now empower your business users with the applications or front ends to request information, reading and writing to those systems. You never would imagine you could modernize a mainframe or even a legacy application that was built 20 years ago that it's paramount to the company. I can't move it, but I do need to modernize it. I need a mobile front end. I need to extend it to different set of users or workers, or I want to open it up to my customers. Very powerful when you can do that, and Appian allows you to do just that. And then when we're referring to mission critical applications, you have to think about security, because we're providing this application platform in the cloud. So it's a 100% web-based application. So you as an end user, to build the application, all you need is your web browser. Both as a user and a consumer now of the application, all you need is your web browser or a mobile device. Because we're creating these applications, it's a design once and deploy everywhere. And this is a patent that we have today referred to as SAIL, a self-assembly interface layer. So it allows us to create the user interface once, but it can be deployed across any medium of your desktop, your browsers, as well as your Android or Apple devices. So as companies are thinking about how do I empower my users with mobile applications, because they have their own mobile devices, Appian is a great way to do that. No additional cost, no additional effort to design it. It's all mobile out of the gate.
Incredible.
Yeah. And then, as touching on the additional security with the cloud, Appian is one of the most highly secure solutions in the world today. We talked about a lot of the federal clients using it. We're FedRAMP level 2 security certified. So it's very important to us as we create these solutions, and whether it's for hospitals with HIPAA or for companies with PCI information or government with the DoD type of information.
Yeah, I would say so. When you think of mobile, at least for me, you think of applications like TikTok and you wonder, well, shoot, if my kids are using my phone and I have data on there, you want it secure, right? So when it comes to security, that's incredible. There is this thing, and I've read about it, I've heard about it, but it's the Appian guarantee. Can we just really what is guaranteed?
This was a bold initiative led by our CEO, Matt Calkins, and it was really to help show clients just how fast our applications can be deployed. So we guarantee within 8 weeks we can deploy your first application. And what that really means is we're going to work with the client to understand the scope of that, and we're going to work on that scope that's achievable within that 8 weeks that we refer to as a minimally viable product, which I can get into the hands of the business to start using right away. So if I can go from my idea to deploying that in 8 weeks, that's our guarantee.
But what happens if it's 15 weeks? Is this guarantee financial also?
It is. So the guarantee is us committing to getting it done for a certain cost, $150,000 in 8 weeks. And if for some reason we misscoped or we misspoke of our confidence in how quickly we could deliver it, we'll bring in the extra resources with no cost within that same time frame. And we're going to deliver that solution with 8 weeks.
The Appian guarantee, man. Well, I mean, pretty incredible. It's the first I've heard of something like that. Because the worst nightmare that you could imagine would be somebody has a really great idea, and think about this, and this is what I've been trying to say, I think, throughout the episode. The end users are sometimes the most innovative ones, that if they just talk to somebody that could help them, they could say, do you do this and that? We're going to be so much more effective. We're going to be so much more productive. Well, with the Appian guarantee and all of these other things, it's like the concern I could see a CFO would have is this just opening up a can of lots of expenses and a runway that never ends? And it sounds like you guys squashed that.
No, exactly. Not the case. And a lot of companies in the past decades have over-purchased for the software licenses and because it's taken a year to deploy. That becomes very challenging, so they want to ramp out slowly. Our goal is to get full usage of the solution very quickly because you're going to learn from the business of what needs to be added, what needs to be changed as you're creating this. A lot of times the business, they don't know what they don't know, so it's not until they get the technology in their hands that they come up with the next great idea to help them save 50% efficiency on what it is they do, as an example. And then on Appian is, we talked earlier before the podcast of it's still a little bit of an unknown. Appian who? If I'm calling into a new organization, it may be Appian who?
I was going to make the cliche joke in my intro that this is like the biggest company you never heard of, but it really is.
Being 20 years old and now a public organization, and we went public, and it was a chance for us to open up to the world what type of creative things we're doing and so we're not big on the marketing spend. We're big on customer success, and that's really where our guarantee is tied right to is just that. And if you look to the analysts that cover our space, whether it's Gartner or Forrester or IDC, others. We're highly ranked as a leader in many different quadrants, not just one. And that's what's unique about Appian is we're one product, but we fulfill many different capabilities. And so whether it's intelligent process automation, whether it's low code, whether it's dynamic case management. Appian is a leader in all of those quadrants.
That's great, and I know there's so much more. Reluctantly, I know I have to close my interview down, but I want to say that this really, for me, it kind of answered a lot of questions that I had. Because the more, like if anyone looks you guys up on YouTube, there's like lots of videos, and I mean many, many videos, and they're not just on one category, one industry. It's very diverse what you guys can accomplish.
We take pride in making our clients heroes within their own company. And the video, in customer video testimonies, you'll see that, you'll hear that from them, how they've been able to impact their clients and how delighted they are to have partnered with Appian.
So if anyone's listening, and I know there's people that will just want to know, like, what do they do, like next steps? I know you mentioned the website. Is that the best way? If somebody wants to reach out to you direct, can you just kind of walk us through how to get a hold of you?
I can be found on LinkedIn. It's Glenn Healy, Glenn with 2 N's, and or you can reach out to Appian.com. There'll be somebody that will jump on a chat with you and answer any questions, or give you my personal information, or take advantage of that free trial. I think it's a great way to get exposed. Whether you're a business individual, an IT individual, you'll find a lot from just that trial download in exposing you to what the platform really is capable of doing.
Well, Glenn Healy, thank you so much. And thank you, Appian, for choosing to be on the Oil and Gas Pitch podcast. If your company has real solutions to real problems, we invite you here to the Oil and Gas Pitch podcast. Again, I want to say thank you to Churrasco's. Check them out. We'll have their website in our show notes, and you can check out their 4 and 6 family packs. It's quite the deal. So check it out and support our friends at Churrasco's.